I think let's go ahead and kick this off. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning, 1 Million Cups Daytona Beach. Welcome. So nice to see a nice full room and some familiar faces and some longtime faces. I'm Tyler LeCompte. I'm one of the organizers here for Million Cups. If you are an organizer, which we have a few, you raise your hand, please, including our former and our guest organizers. If you raise your hand, we have one MC Pompos in the house. So say hi to your neighbors. For anybody's first time attendance? Anybody's first time coming? Everybody knows it? Okay, cool. Oh, there you are. Thank you. Raise that hand. Thank you. Good morning. Welcome. For your benefit, so you know, and for everyone on Facebook, 1 Million Cups is part of a national entrepreneurial networking movement. It happens in 189 cities every Wednesday, 9 a.m. Entrepreneurs get on stage, share their story, their challenges, their successes, what they can use help with, etc. Today we have a familiar face. He's been up here a couple of times, but I'm going to we have a guest introduction specialist today, so before I give away who our speaker is, I'm actually going to have our guest introducer come on up. I'd like to introduce Lucas. All right, and so Lucas is going to introduce our speaker today, and then he's also got something to share at the end. That's really, really cool. So Lucas, take it away.
Hello everybody and welcome to 1 Million Cups. Now introducing my dad known as Lou Paris.
Come here.
There you go. All right.
Thank you, Lucas. Let's give one more round of applause. Put yourself in the shoes of an 8-year-old facing this crowd. Quite intimidating, even for an adult. I've heard that many times. So thank you for having me today. Let me just briefly, a couple of seconds, tell you who I am. Some of you know me quite well. I work at Stetson University. I teach entrepreneurship, and I've started several businesses in the past. In fact, I think this is my 3rd or 4th time, which is either a really good thing or a bad thing. The fact that I've had to do this.
4th time, 3rd business.
Really? Is it? Okay, this is 4th time. Let me give you a layout of the presentation quickly. I'll break it up into 2 hats, okay? Actually, that would be inaccurate because it's just a little blurb on first, what I'm seeing in the entrepreneurship community, what I'm seeing among entrepreneurs. And I don't mean that, I know I work at Stetson as a lecturer. It will be more of me telling you what I've been seeing and how I use that information to help myself kind of think about what business to start and how to do it the way that I wanted to do it. And of course, that will segue then into the different approach that I have, which will be probably the most of the presentation, okay? Let me go back to, I think that we're in a room, and the fact that most of you have been here more than once, I think we're all either entrepreneurs or aspiring entrepreneurs, or we just have an interest in hearing other people's ideas, right? I would dare and say that most of us are looking at the same, or listening to the same blogs, looking at the same videos, reading the same books. And in a way, we're starting to develop a similar language. We're reading the same concepts, and little by little, we meet each other, and we're building this culture where we're saying the same things that we're hearing from the media, correct? And let me ask you by a show of hands, how many of you have been asked that question? What is your unique value proposition? Man, I've been asked that question a ton of times. I've asked that question a ton of times. At Stetson, every time a student comes to my office, I asked it. Yeah, see, one person admitted to that. Now, this is a very valuable question because it makes you think, what am I putting on the table? What would people want to buy my product? But here's the thing. At the same time, I think this is one of the most lethal questions you can ask in entrepreneurship because it's an idea killer. Here's why. Every time you ask that question, every time I get asked that question, I have this feeling that I have to answer something grand. It has to be this unique value proposition. You have to be the only person in the world thinking about this and acting upon it. And every time we look at the media, you're encouraged to have to think like that and to offer this grand answer. And I have a problem, at first, I used to take this simply, that's the way it is, and that's the way you have to do it. But over time, I come to learn, hey, that's kind of crazy, because think about the fact that there's more than 6 billion people in the world, and no one has ever thought of your idea before, they're not doing it. I don't quite believe that, And the other side to that is, if really no one has thought of doing what you're planning on doing, is there a market for it? Because maybe you're stumbling upon a problem that's not really a problem or a solution at hand, So again, I had a tough time swallowing that statement, unique value proposition. And going back to, for example, Shark Tank, the encouragement with this, the thought process behind this is you have to tackle a big idea. If your idea is not big enough, why go after it in the first place? Let's go after the $1 billion idea. Oh, what about the $100 million idea? What about the $1 million idea? The $100,000, the $10,000 idea? It's like the lottery, I play when it's $500 million. But if it's 10 million, no. It's not going to put a dent in my finances, right? It's crazy. It's a crazy thought. I remember one time I was pitching to an investor, my previous, I still have that business, Conqueros, the one that I pitched the year before, to help international students get jobs in the US. His answer was, well, that's not a $100 million idea, at best, maybe 10 million. Okay? He looked at me with disgust. I'm like, okay, fine, it's not big enough, but I would be more than content with a $10 million business. Woo, phenomenal. When I do find people who they're wanting to do something, and I ask them, hey, do you have a business idea? They tell me I don't have the business idea. And dude, is a divine power going to come down and give you the idea? If you wait for the perfect idea because the media is pushing you to have the $1 billion thing, probably it may never come. And in fact, many of those $1 billion ideas didn't look like $1 billion ideas at first. Okay, they turn out to be that way. And I see a lot of people who come to me and share their ideas, and when they do come with one, I always encourage them to don't think about that one product, because it may or may not work. See it as a line of products, okay? You may endure pivots along the way that may lead to a second, third product, and that gives you, I think that would be a lot better, right? So in seeing all this in the community, I was concerned. I'm like, why do I have to tackle that $1 billion idea? Why can I not do something else? And an idea occurred to me that I called micro-innovation. Why not take something that already sells, that I don't have to figure out, do any market validation. I know it sells because I'm seeing it there, and basically tweak it ever so slightly and sell it. And I thought, let me make my life super duper simple. I don't want to be promoting a new platform. Let me use what exists. And let me, again, in the spirit of making life simple, let me go online. What's the biggest platform online? Amazon. I mean, that's where when most of us go buy something, we go there. So let me, keep my life simple that way. And then we'll talk a lot about this platform and how I've been using it. So I look for products nowadays that have high sales velocity. That means these are products that already sell very well. These are products that are mundane, that are commonplace. When you look at them, they're not a $1 billion product, or idea. They're something that you would easily recognize. I wouldn't have to explain it to you because you know what it does. At the same time, the product has to have the least amount of established competition. That means that I'm looking for competition. I need competition, but I'm looking for something that has new competition. If I look at the top sellers in a product category, I want to see several in the top 10 have low number of reviews. And there's a math. There's for every 100 sales you make, you get 1 review. So if I see 50, 100, 200 reviews, that's someone who's new. If they're able to get in there, I may be able to have a chance at this point in time to get in there as well, okay? So, and third, also, all 3 criteria has to be met. This is probably the weirdest one. The product has to have problems. If it doesn't have a problem, why tackle it in the first place? But if I see the product is selling well and it has a problem, that's potential right there. So when I find a product that meets all 3 criteria, then I go on to find out what the problem is. I go through hundreds of reviews. I read every single one of them, and I catalog them into like different pots, okay? People usually say the same things with different words, and I start looking at a baseline, what the problem is. If in the end, I'm able to figure out what the problem is in the first place, because sometimes you don't know. You're looking at 100 reviews, and you can't wrap your brain around exactly what the problem is. But if I'm able to find out what it is, then I try to find a solution. If I know how to solve it, then I do. At that point, I actually go, and again, keeping my life simple, I go to the biggest market in the world for manufacturers. Anyone care to guess what it is? China, yeah. And what's the name of the platform? Alibaba. Alibaba, you go there, and you look for someone who already makes your product. I don't want to reinvent the wheel. I simply go, hey, here's a proposal for a product that you already make. Can you make these changes? Can you make these tweaks? And I'll tell you, on average, I'll probably have to send 10, 20. I'd probably get half back. So half of them will say, yeah, we can actually enact those changes for this much more money or no cost at all, or a reduced price, and then we simply negotiate a price, bring it to the US. So I know it sounds a little bit abstract. I'll give you 2 examples how I've done it in the past, and hopefully that will help, okay? So that's not a $1 billion idea. Had I come to you guys, had I stood here before and told you, I'm gonna sell doormats, you'll be, this guy, crappy idea, it's not gonna work. So doormats, but let me tell you why doormats was a great fit for my business. When I looked at the data, it's a product that has super high demand. A lot of people buy doormats on Amazon, and it has meeting competition, meaning that there's not a whole lot of different vendors offering that product online. The problems were, it ships folded, it's smaller than expected, it's too thin, too flimsy, not the right quality, wrong description. This was a big one because a lot of those sellers are Chinese companies. Their English is maybe not the greatest, and the way they communicate what the product is was really insane. I mean, grammatical errors left and right. I mean, Sean would be having convulsions if he was reading that. Fake photos. They basically, because most of them are in China, they don't have an American-looking home, so they have to download a photo of an American home and put a fake doormat in front, okay? And it looks eerie, it looks just weird. Bottom line, what I learned about it was that people care about the design. Despite all that, they still buy a lot of it. If they like the design, they go for it. A few examples. You can't really tell from this, but look at the fact that it has 3.5 stars. Okay, that's a low rating. If you were to look at this on the computer, this doormat is fake. And the reason I know that is because if you switch colors, it stays exactly the same, just the color changes, and it just looks odd. And the shadows are not right. Another example, there's so many things wrong with this picture, but you can tell that I believe that the person thought where in the original picture that just put the doormat underneath it. Again, the shadows are all off, and the fact that I love dogs, but that dog is not photogenic, nor are the people. And look at how the wood, it just doesn't look, like a professionally done photograph. So I'm like, you know what, we can do that a lot better. And actually, I think together we can figure out what will be the solutions, for those problems. If they're complaining about it being shipped folded, what do? We ship it flat, right? Smaller than expected. We specify the size and we offer proportion. We show objects next to the doormat that will help someone assess its real size. Too thin, make it thick. Wrong description, right description. Fake photos, guess what? We're going to use real photos. It doesn't take a genius to figure it out, right? I'm sure you were sitting there like knowing what the answers were. That's exactly what we did. So here's our listing, or what it was a few months ago. We're still at a 5-star rating. We're now at 60-some reviews. Look at the here on top, the hello, simple. I didn't have to reinvent the wheel. I didn't have to go crazy with something ultra funny. It's just, that's what people are buying, and that's what I stick with it, right? I explain exactly what the product is. It's 100% natural fiber. I tell you the size here, and I do it later in another photo. It ships flat, and I go into all those details. I'll explain the bottom in just a moment, because there's a story behind that. We invented a seal that is called, this is a real photo, not a rendering. And so we put it in every photo just to make sure that you know that this, we didn't trick this. This actually, in the back of my house, I have a white table, I put it on top, I stood on the table, took the photo, and I, of course, we did the size, the thickness, and we spoke at length with the manufacturer. We said, okay, what's the thickest that we can go? He goes, if you go more than that, the fibers will be too long, you won't be able to scrape your feet. If you go shorter than that, that's when people complain. So you want it at 0.6 exactly, okay? You put 0.6. That's Jenny, my wife, and that's Lucas right there. You want to do for shorts? Okay, good. But again, real photo, that's the entrance to my house. I give you proportion, because I have a door behind, I have flower pots on the sides, and you can get a better idea how big that is. Same thing, the entrance, and the whole point here is to show the real thing, okay? And that, I think, has bought us goodwill from people. They think they're buying something more genuine because of it. Oh, that's the bottom thing. The only innovation, quote unquote, that I did for this was I added looking for hidden keys at the bottom. So when you lift the corner, that's what you see. The thought process here was, women wear high heel shoes that, the really fancy ones that have the red color thing. No one ever sees that, but what? Yeah, rub bottoms. Okay, so no one ever sees that, but you feel cool that you have them, I guess, And I thought that's probably the same thought process here. No one will ever see it unless they're looking for a key, but it's cool to know that it's there. And I based on comments that we get from the reviews, I think people will get a kick out of it. They know that no one will ever see it, but they like the fact that it's there. Something about doormats is that it's a very mundane product. And like any other product nowadays that you buy, you expect it to work. We live in an era where defective products are not an option anymore. So how do you bring life to this? And I thought there has to be a story behind it. And so we built this whole thing behind the doormat, it's so crazy. And this is the email. You don't have to read it. I'll kind of walk you through the logic here. This is the email that you get when you buy it. And we thought doormats are so underappreciated. Doormats are the most important part of the house. Think about this. When you go and open the door, that's a place where you greet people you haven't seen in a long time. That's where you hug, where you kiss, where all this magic happens, or where the magic is about to start happening. It happens there on that doormat. And so we conveyed this information on that email, and I'll read it to you first, the first line quickly. You're officially one of our favorite people in the world. Thank you for buying our doormat. To us, doormats are so much more than doormats. Doormats are arguably the most important part of the home. Think about it. And then we explain all the reasons why it is the most important part of the home. We wish that many wonderful people make their way to your doormat. We wish you many, many magical moments. And so we're kind of pulling those emotional strings there. And we include that same information on the product tag. So when you get it, the doormat comes with that. And by the way, since then we have made a better looking one. It's a little more traditional, like what you would see on a price tag in old times, like the corners cut off on the top and it's like brown color. And so with the same information. And we started this hashtag campaign, the More Than a Doormat, where if you have an experience like that and you want to share it, that's a hashtag you would use. This is the last email that I'll show you, but you'll see why in just a moment. We're ridiculously excited that your doormat has arrived. That's when we get a notification from Amazon that it has shipped. In fact, we wish we could be there to open the box with you. Now that you have an awesome doormat, it's time to invite your friends and family for a visit. We took the liberty of including a hit recipe in this email so you can feed them and maybe brag about your new doormat. Over the top. And here it is, the recipe that we put on, that we include in that email. And I can't tell you how many comments, positive comments we get on this crazy thing that only took maybe 1 hour to put together, just, send it over. And, people, I guess they really appreciate it. Next product, glow in the dark stars. $1 billion idea? Nope. Now, you may be wondering, what does glow stars have to do with doormats? And the answer is absolutely nothing, other than the fact that it sells well on Amazon, like crazy. It has little competition, although this has more than the doormat. And third, it has a problem. So let me walk you through it quickly. It is a product that has high demand with high competition. High competition meant, in this case, that there were at least a couple of sellers in the top spots that had over 1,000 reviews. These guys own the market. The problems, the stars don't glow, the stars are too small, or they don't stick to the ceiling. The answers are obvious, okay? If they don't glow, make them shine. They're too small, make them big. They don't stick, by God, we're gonna make them stick. It sounds easier said than done, but here's the challenge that I had with this one. Let me show you the competition. Here's the competition. These guys are the top sellers online on any platform that sell the most stars in the United States. A few hundred on Amazon alone a day. It's crazy. We found that people, the company that makes their stars. And so we reached out to them, and we noticed one thing. You see how it's called Illuma Glow 2.0? The way everyone is tackling the problem about shine is focusing on the phosphorus. They try to find the best chemical reaction so that it shines the most. The problem with that is that if all of us were looking at the same stars, in fact, those stars, our perception of them shining more, a lot or not, would be different. because we have different perception, you know, how bright they are. And so I'm like, it's impossible to fight that. That's why even this guy has really horrible reviews. And so it dawned on me that the right way to do it, and this is our box, was to include a UV flashlight in the kit. And I only found this out by mere fluke, because I'm playing with the stars and all of a sudden I kind of went like this with a UV light, and I could see exactly where the line had gone. I'm like, oh my God, like they should charge like crazy when I just shined it for a second. I'm like, let's make it a kit, and I include the UV lights. And then I thought, why don't we turn this into a whole family experience, right? So here's all the things that we added. So we have 100 stars that are, you know, the big size and the small size. We tell you exactly how big they are. We built a rocket. You know, we kept our life simple here. We went online, we looked for free, open source, 3D printed rockets. We printed one, we're like, it doesn't look right. We asked someone who knew how to manipulate the file, make it wider. Boom, they made it wider. Okay, let's send that file over to China. We had a mold made in less than a month for $1,400. And of course, we used glow-in-the-dark material. And we added the flashlight and a really cool mission guide. We wanted parents to play with the children to play, so we wrote a few like missions, or games they could play, and it's with invisible ink. You actually need to shine the UV flashlight to be able to read the instructions. So it made it, you know, kind of cool and different. This we recently launched. You know, it's been just a few weeks, and we've had maybe 200 units sold at this point. But those are two examples of how we have gone about launching the product. Now, the thing to keep in mind is when you put a product online, any platform, you are in oblivion. In Amazon, if you launch, you're on page 1,000. No one will ever, ever buy from you. The only way they'll buy from you is if you are on the first page. So there's several ways you can go about ranking on Amazon. I'll tell you about two. One, the most obvious one is PPC, pay-per-click. Just like Google AdWords, it's the same thing, it's self-contained. What's valuable and crazy is that when you go search for products, typically, think about this, oftentimes you will go directly to Amazon. You're not going to go on Google and search, you go to Amazon and search for the product there. So you need to be very cognizant of what keywords you're using. There are pages, systems that allow you to find out what are the right keywords. I used one where, for example, for the doormat, there were 550 search terms. It sounds a lot, it's just every variation, how it's been used in real life on Amazon. So it canvases what has taken place and how often it's searched. You pick all those up and you dump them in Amazon advertising. Amazon advertising comes in two flavors. It comes in automatic and manual. In automatic, you simply tell Amazon, hey, look at my title, my description, have at it. Show it to whoever you think is going to be buying this. The manual, that's where you plug in the 500 and some keywords, and that one comes in three flavors: broad match, phrase match, and exact match. Don't mind what they mean. It's simply the treatment of the search term is slightly different in the algorithm. And so the important thing is that you're not missing anyone. I mean, whichever way they type that word in there that is associated with your product, you appear, okay? And you have to start bidding for these key search terms. At first, you're going to spend a fortune. So the first couple of weeks when you launch it, you're doing, the cost of advertisement will be like 400%. Meaning that you're, let me simplify this. Let's say that your product is $10, you're spending $40 to sell the same unit. So you're losing money on them. But as weeks progress, you start looking at which key terms are working out for you and which aren't. Something crazy, for example, I sell a hello doormat. I don't use the hello doormat search term because it costs me way too much. So I turned it off. You know, if they're going to find me, they're going to find me some other way that makes more money for me. That happens to be a fluke. You don't have to do it like that. It's just I noticed I was paying like 70% and like it's eating up all my profit. So let me not use that key term. The other way to rank, there are services out there like JumpSend, Viral Launch, where you discount your product heavily. By heavily, I mean 70, 80, and 90%. And people buy the product, and the promise is that they'll give you a review. And that's the whole thing. If you get reviews, then people see that you're legit, that you're the real thing. And here's something crazy, like people would rather buy a product that has a bad review than one that doesn't have any reviews. And if you do memory, you're probably the same way, like, oh, I don't want to be that guinea pig. I don't want to be that first person that gets taken for it. So you discount the product heavily for a while, and the thought process is by discounting the product and getting a lot of people to buy, you start ranking on Amazon, and hopefully organic sales start to show up, and that keeps you afloat. If you do it really well, the guys who do the #1 sellers with the low stars, they don't do any advertising. They're always organically #1. So they don't have to promote anything, they save a ton of money. The advertising cost of sales on Amazon is what makes you or break you. That's where you have to find products that have the greatest amount of profit, so you can eat them up in advertising. And I'll tell you today, Amazon is not a fulfillment company. Amazon is not a platform that does the providing of the products. They are an advertising company. That's how they make money. Trust me on that one, because it hurts every month I have to make that payment. Now, not everything is roses. This is the last part of the presentation. The downside to working with Amazon is that, so many reasons, but Amazon, as great as they are for the buyers, Amazon hates sellers with a vengeance. I mean, they're horrible. Does anyone sell on Amazon right now? Any hands? The best example I can give you why that is a true statement is because if you have a great product on Amazon, Amazon will take it away from you, almost by force. So Amazon Essentials, that's exactly what it is. They have people working for them who understand their system, their algorithm better than anyone because they created it. They can see which products are performing well. If they find one where they think they can actually make the same product and make money off it, then they make it, they source it, they make it, and guess what's going to happen to you? Little by little, you'll die. Why? Because they control the ranking, they control the reviews, and trust me on this one, if they want to get rid of a bad review, they can. And so they do just that. Every person that I know who sells on Amazon, they want to keep a foot in there, but they're trying with all their might to get out to other platforms like Wayfair or Touch of Modern or their own platform because it really, being so dependent on Amazon is dangerous. The first thing what I do when I wake up in the morning is go through my emails to see if I have a suspension email from Amazon. It has happened. So one quick story about it. I was traveling, actually I was with you. We were on one of those trips with the Stetson Entrepreneurship team, and I get this notification, your account has been suspended. Apparently one person, I had sold at this one maybe 500 doormats, offered that the reason for the return was used, sold as new. So I'm like, okay, well, it's not really my problem because I source all that from China. All that product comes new. It arrives to the Amazon facility. I never touched the product. And if it was sold, if it really was sold, used and we claimed that it was new, it was because maybe Amazon brought in something that had been returned, that had some defects, and they put it back into inventory, which happens, and then I'm to blame. So I tell them this, like, hey, no, this is your fault, I never touched this, and of course that went well. I had to type a 10-page document explaining how I was at fault for what they did. I had to, do creative writing. Sean, you could have helped me on that one. Creative writing explaining how I was wrong, and it took 20 phone calls and 6 emails to be reinstated a week later. Every time I spoke with someone at Amazon, by the way, no one ever has answers there, okay, but every time I got a different answer. So that's kind of one of those horror stories that you get. And if you talk to anyone who sells on Amazon in volumes, they'll tell you invariably the same thing. So that's the non-fun side of Amazon. The other downside is it's capital intensive. It costs money to do the R&D. It costs money to, those little tweaks that I'm talking about, they cost money. The inventory itself, it's a lot, most of it, that's a lot of money, and the advertising. What's crazy is that even when you're successful, that's when you need the most capital, because then you have to replace one unit with 2 or 3 more. So it's like hungry for more and more and more. And you never want to stock out, because if you do, it has happened to us this year 3 times. If you stock out, your ranking starts going down and you're freaking out. You're looking at it, oh my God, don't let this happen. And then they come back on. So again, that's a few of the horror stories, but I'm very happy with it. We have been doing it for a little less than a year. The doormats are making for us right now, we're selling $30,000 a month. Again, is it a $1 billion idea? No, but would anyone here complain about $30,000 a month in revenue? I don't think anyone will. Like, no, I don't want that. It's too little, too small. I'm happy with it. The idea is to build a portfolio over time that we have 10, 15, 20 products that are doing the same thing. And honestly, guys, if I'm facing the option of the potential of a $1 billion company versus 10, 15, 10, $100,000 products, I'd rather take those. More diversity, I'm less susceptible to what happens with one. And if I can go through that process 10, 15 times, by God, I can continue and eventually hit maybe the $1 million or the $10 million product. So that's a story. Questions at this point?
Yep. All right, great job, Lou. Wow, what an interesting story. So who's got some questions? I know I got a few. Anybody? All right, come around. Tyler, we'll go here. Adrian, we'll go in the back. Good morning, Tyler, the Com Networks, Inc. Lou, great job. Thank you so much for coming back. Can you talk a little bit? I love the idea. I love the simplicity of it. The fact that it's just you don't have to innovate to be an entrepreneur. You just have to do innovative things every day. And this is a really innovative way to take advantage of the system that a lot of people are already working on. So that's good. Let me ask how did you initially fund your foray into this adventure? And I know the story, that's why I'm asking. But how did you initially fund this? How fast did you recoup that? And how are you currently funding the project in terms of, etc.?
Thank you. So yeah, my credit cards are very happy right now. Man, we started looking at, we probably activated 3 or 4 0% APR business credit cards. Not crazy limits. I mean, we're talking on average, each one was about $10,000, $50,000. We maxed all of them out. In fact, all of them have like a little buffer, like $200 left in them. The cool thing about it, though, is that you get the money back quickly. Keep in mind that you're not gambling here. The money, you're putting products in the market that are already selling very well. Okay, so you don't have to figure out, oh, is it going to sell? It will sell. You just have to follow a sequence of steps. You have to be diligent about making it to that first page. Once you do, money's coming in. So you're at the very least able to pay back all that money that you're taking from the credit card. Now, something that I didn't tell you is that first order always loses money. You have to. I mean, you're giving away at 90% discount, and you're giving away 200 units. Trust me on this one. You're not going to see any plus there. But at least a good chunk of it you're able to put back in the credit card. Hopefully on the second, third orders, and that was our case, we were able to start seeing now not just break-even points, but we were making money. And where we stand today, especially with the doormats, because now we have a second one, we're having to replace it with 2 and 3, respectively. And so we're speaking with the SBA. We are in the process of getting a credit line and a capital loan. And so hopefully that comes through, because right now every week it's like, we have to pay another $3,000. Great, I have to sell Lucas now.
Thank you.
Hey Lou, it's Adrian with Toronto Media. I was with you, I think when you were first starting, and Lucas and my daughter was playing basketball.
Right, yeah, I remember, yeah.
So my question or my comment to you is, did you map out your steps on what you did, so if someone wanted to duplicate, wanted to get to the same business as you, is there here's my journey online that someone could follow?
I can give you something better than that. And by the way, are you in basketball this season again? No? Okay. We just started yesterday, the practice. I'll talk to you all about that, our experience from last season to this season. No, but to your point, there is a series of videos that I did make. They're called Jungle Scout. There's a YouTube channel. They walk you step by step, and I mean this, step by step. All you need to do to get there. What I would recommend, if anything that I've said kind of strikes a chord, you would go on Jungle Scout, the channel, and then you look for season 4 of the $1 Million Case Studies. I think that's what it's called, season 4. And they talk about all this in a lot more detail. Of course, some things you'll invariably have to learn yourself. There's things that happen that you don't know why, and you have to like do some digging. But at least there's a great starting point. And I'll be frank with you, with just a few $1,000s, by that I mean, with the right product, with maybe $5,000, you can go through the whole process.
Lou, that was wonderful presentation. I think your energy is so important. Like the attitude of, okay, yeah, we have to make money, we have to pay the rent. Oh, sorry, I'm Jenny Nazak. I'm the author of Deep Greening book, blog, and radio show. But what I like about what you're doing is you're not talking about your exit strategy. I think you're going to exit when they put you in the ground. Like, I mean, like I know I want to exit. I want to be composted. But in the meantime, we have so much to do on this planet, and I love that attitude. And then the idea that you don't need $1 billion idea, because I see a lot of people get stymied by that. So keep going. And I want to see it in this area. I want us to plug into VMA, Volusia Manufacturers Association, the way that we plug into Alibaba and start really up our game around here, even though it's a challenge cost-wise. But it's a great mentality.
Thank you for saying that. One little anecdote along those lines, I've told Connie about this 1,000 times, so we joke about it. When she was at the SBA, the first time I ever came to her, I told her that I wanted to sell decorative rulers. Sounds crazy, I know, but it was the first of several products that I wanted to put into the, like Pier 1 and so forth. And she looked at me like, no, that's a really bad idea. It's not $1 billion idea, you know? And I'm like, honey, you should have let me do it. I would have been probably better off than trying all the other stuff that I did. Because, you know, if you know me, I've had epic failures because there were the unique value proposition. The biggest one that I can claim is No Bully Fear was an online platform to help children overcome bullying. Oh my God, the market told me they didn't like it after like $40,000 and 2 years of you know, working on it. That was horrible. That was a bad experience, but because I was following the $1 billion idea. So yeah, thank you for mentioning that.
Any other questions, comments, thoughts, feedback?
Good morning.
Morning.
From Kenneth Grant Inspirations. Everyone loves a good story. You mentioned the hashtag. I'd like to know if you could share this one story from the hashtag.
To share one story from the hashtag? I'll be frank with you, I've been so busy trying to keep things going, especially keep the backhand flowing. I haven't been tracking what has been put in there. I did have one person comment, like more face to face, that they had a family member who was a veteran, and that they had, you know, not seen him in a long time, and all of a sudden, you know, they opened the door and they're right there. And she's like, you're right, it happened right on the doormat, you know. So that stuck with me, and I was like, yeah, that's awesome, you know. But I'm hoping that over time we're able to feed more into that. But I really still believe. I mean, I believe that doormats are really, you know, underappreciated in the home. They're really important. I hope that more people catch on to that sentiment.
Hey Lou, it's Michael. I got a question for you. How do you go about looking at the products that you ultimately are going to do this micro innovation? I mean, you talked about the 3 qualifiers that you're looking to check off, but I mean, there's millions of products on Amazon. So are you just sitting out there looking at different stuff? And
Good question. So there are multiple platforms that canvas Amazon, and I think this tool is useful regardless if you want to sell on Amazon or not, because Amazon is the market in many ways, and whatever happens in there, I believe, transcends to the real world, quote unquote, okay? So the one that I use is the same one from the video. It's called Jungle Scout, and in there, I can look up, run queries, and I can run a query that says, show me products that are in this price range that are, that have this number of reviews, that you can give it all the specs, and it will spit out products. Still in the hundreds, if not thousands, and you just have to spend days going through products. I'll be frank with you, sometimes I see a product that I don't connect with. It may have all the right criteria, but I look at it, I'm like, do I really want to sell this? I'm like, no, that's weird, you know? I steer clear from electronics, I steer clear from clothing, because usually when you go buy clothes, it's typically a branded specific thing. I avoid books and DVDs for obvious reasons. You know, I can't, you know, unless I write the book, you know, it's someone else's book. So I use that platform. I think it's a little bit of an art to determine which one is the right one. We got lucky with the doormat. We stumbled upon this thing. We also had contenders were inflatable palm trees.
Yes.
Yes, they sell like crazy, man. It's just, you'll be surprised. Every party, every you know, Hawaiian party has one. The problem with those is that they tip easily and they deflate, and we're like, oh my god, deflation. How can we control that when we didn't feel comfortable that we could? What else did we have in the pipeline? We had some crazy stuff. Oh, locker shelves sell like crazy, and not just in the peak of the school season when it starts. All year round, it sells a lot. We have in the pipeline right now, let's see, we have LED, and I know I said no electronics, but this one is just too simple. LED lights that float in pools. We have a cover for a sofa. You know, when it kind of looks all run down, you put a cover to protect it or to make it look prettier again. So, but we spend weeks, you know, fighting out, determining if it's the right fit for us. Those platforms usually do a reasonable job telling you how big the opportunity is, and so I rely a lot on that. If I see a number that it's on a scale to 10, if I see a 6 and up, I go for it. The doorman was a 6. I mean, I don't think you ever see any 10s, 9s, are rare to come by 8s. Every now and then you see one. You see an 8, you're like, you know, just take it. And you need to move fast because that 8 changes, you know, from one month to the next.
Any other questions before we wrap up? Al?
Great presentation. One takeaway for me is eliminating what you're not going to do, which is very important. How much time do you, I think you've got other things you do, how much time do you spend and give a week on this?
So, I can't do it alone. I do it with my brother. I have more flexibility in my schedule than he does. When the semester starts, usually at Stetson, I have to, most of my focus is in that. But every evening, we probably put in 2-3 hours in the evening, and weekends for sure. But there's 2 of us, and I think once you get going a product, there's very little to do with it. You just have to keep track of those keywords. There's certain things you have to do to maintain it, but unless you want to go professional with it, I would simply, you know, just let it run and make sure that your advertising campaign is healthy, and your aid costs are kept at a low level. You know, anything for us is below 30%. If we go over 30, we may be losing money. So yeah. Couple hours every day. When we launch a product, usually it's a little more intense than it will be like full time for a couple of weeks. And we have an interesting skill set in that I'm more the creative side. All the brand names and everything I did myself. All the artwork on the box, the logo, everything I did. My brother is more number oriented, so I let him tell me if at any point we are doing poorly with you know, the finances. Let's say that, hey, one of the cost of advertising went through the roof, then we make changes. And both of us tag team with dealing with the vendors. Oh my God, that's sometimes, yeah. There's things that I'm very cautious when I work with Asia, especially China. If you don't get every single spec and detail on that quote, they're going to come back and do something. With a flashlight, they had sent us 2 models, and we said, well, we want this one. And all of a sudden, when we're about to pay, like, no, the price is not that. The price is like a lot more. And we're, why? Oh, because this model has something different. Like, no, we have an agreement for that one right there. So they always start to upsell you without you even noticing. And that takes a lot of energy on a daily basis to make sure that you're not, you know, getting crucified.
Sounds highly addictive. So like the first thing you look at in the morning, last thing before you go to bed.
And you know, the other thing that I do is there's an app that, and let me do it right now. So there's an app that tells you live how many units you're selling at every given moment. One came in just now. Yeah. So, you know, and my brother and I have this thing where repeatedly, like every minute, I'll refresh. And it's so rewarding when you see like all of a sudden you haven't checked for an hour, and all of a sudden like you have sold 15 units. You're like, dude, you know, so it's awesome.
Now, it's a roller coaster ride because every now and then you have to deal with horrible people too. I mean, you look at reviews. There was one person gave us a 1-star review because, oh, it was not the size that I thought it should be. I mean, you saw, I mean, the size is right there, and I have over watch like, what the heck what are you doing? And so, you know, you got to deal with that. So I try to not take it to heart and not cry.
Any other questions? Round of applause for Will.